In a world of biblical prophecy, few topics generate as much intrigue and fascination as the concept of the Antichrist. For centuries, theologians and scholars have sought to unravel the mystery surrounding this enigmatic figure, whose appearance is said to signal the end of time. But what if everything we thought we knew about the Antichrist was wrong? What if there was a shocking truth about this apocalyptic figure that had been hidden from us all along? In this context, the ancient book of Enoch has emerged as a game-changing source of information. With its detailed descriptions of the Antichrist and his origins, Enoch's revelations could upend our understanding of one of the most important prophecies in the Bible. Join us as we delve into the world of Enoch and explore the shocking truth about the Antichrist. The Antichrist is not extensively mentioned in the Bible. The term Antichrist only appears 4 times in the book of John, and even then, John does not describe one evil individual who will arise at the end of time. Rather, he identifies numerous antichrists throughout history, including anyone who does not believe in Jesus. For those who don't identify as Christians, the concept of the Antichrist may not hold much significance. However, early Christians didn't place significant emphasis on the Antichrist either. The idea of a single person opposing God comes from the Old Testament's book of Daniel, although Daniel's specific reference was to Antiochus Epiphanes, the ruler of Palestine, and not a vague future entity. It wasn't until the millennium after the death of Jesus that someone finally penned a description of who the Antichrist would be. In response to the Queen of France's request for specific details, a monk named Adso was given free rein to create his own interpretation. His letter to the Queen became widely circulated during the Middle Ages, and for centuries Adso's words on the Antichrist were considered gospel. Adso believed that the Antichrist would emerge at the end of the Holy Roman Empire. He would be born into Babylon as a Jew and would become the most wicked person of all time. Despite this, he would bear a striking resemblance to Christ's second coming. He would journey to Jerusalem to pray, perform miracles, and rebuild the temple, gaining a vast following. However, he would then persecute Christians for 3.5 years. Fortunately, Jesus would eventually return to defeat the Antichrist. Well, following Adso's contribution, the medieval perception of the Antichrist remained relatively fixed, until Joachim of Fior, another monk, emerged in the 1100s with his own ideas. Joachim became famous in his lifetime for his prophetic abilities and was regarded as one of the most important apocalyptic thinkers besides the author of Revelation. Joachim believed that the end of times were imminent and there would be many antichrists throughout history. They represented the Antichrist in a more general sense, but there would be a singular figure who would signal the end. In Revelation, the character of God appears as a battle adversary of Christians. Joachim associated the final Antichrist with Gog, thus establishing a connection between Revelation and the Antichrist that had been missing for 1,000 years. Martin Luther, a former monk who initially had some suggestions for the Catholic Church, became the founder of Protestantism when his 95 Thesis went unanswered. Luther's battle with the Pope prompted him to discover the entire concept of the papacy was linked to the Antichrist, a conclusion he didn't want to reach. However, the Catholic Church's refusal to acknowledge issues with indulgences and paying for salvation forced Luther to conclude that the man at the head of the Church was deliberately trying to undermine Christ while claiming to represent him, which made the current Pope, and indeed all popes, antichrists in Luther's view. Moreover, the concept of the Antichrist shifted from being perceived as a single person to a more abstract idea after Martin Luther's time. Instead, the term Antichrist began to refer to anything that went against Christianity. However, in modern times, the use of the term to describe an individual has become common again. So much so that some older documents that only reference Antichrist have had the definite article "the" added in brackets. Interestingly, it was Nietzsche's 1895 book, The Antichrist, that played a role in popularizing the individualized view of the Antichrist once again. By the 1970s, Christians had fully embraced the idea of the Antichrist as an individual once again, following Nietzsche's influence. Jesus is an important figure in Islam, and the religion has its version of the Antichrist known as the deceiving Messiah. Although the Quran does not mention him, the Hadith provides a detailed description of who he is, what he looks like, and where he comes from. According to the Hadith, the Antichrist is a heavy-set man with one eye, curly hair, and a ruddy face. He has Arabic letters on his forehead spelling out unbelief, making him easily recognizable. Similar to the Christian version, he appears during times of chaos and goes to Jerusalem, where he's followed by Jews and others, performing miracles. It's unclear how long he will reign, but it's believed that Jesus will return to defeat him. According to tradition, the Antichrist is already on earth but cannot reveal himself yet. Throughout history, powerful men have been accused of being the Antichrist, including Hitler, Nero, Henry Kissinger, Mikhail Gorbachev, and Napoleon. US presidents are also popular Antichrist contenders, with FDR, JFK, and even Obama being accused by some. Despite modern science, belief in the Antichrist remains strong among some Americans. In fact, a 2010 Harris Interactive poll found that 14% of Americans believed Obama could be the Antichrist, with a quarter of Republicans considering it a possibility. These accusations are not merely idle thoughts, as evidenced by a heckler accusing Obama of being the Antichrist at a fundraiser in 2011, and a man taking shots at the White House the same year, claiming God told him to kill the Antichrist president. The belief in the Antichrist has often been associated with anti-Semitism and homophobia. This connection stems from the assumption that the Antichrist would be the opposite of Jesus, who was Jewish, leading to the vilification of Jews during the Middle Ages. Even in modern times, some prominent religious figures have claimed that the Antichrist is likely Jewish, perpetuating this harmful stereotype. Similarly, some interpretations of the Bible's Book of Daniel have led to the association of the Antichrist with homosexuality, despite the fact that the original text does not explicitly mention homosexuality. Some preachers have claimed that the Antichrist will be a homosexual based on a single line of scripture. This homophobia is not supported by all translations of the scripture, but for those who wish to tie homosexuality to evil, these nuances don't seem to matter. Over the years, the number 666 has been linked to various entities, including barcodes, the UN, the EU, and even web addresses. Some companies have been accused of being satanic because of supposed hidden references to the number. While it has its roots in the Book of Revelation, where it's said to be the number of the beast, who almost certainly represents the Roman Empire and translates to Nero in Jewish numerical code, there's nothing mystical or evil about the number itself. Nonetheless, some people with this phobia will go to great lengths to avoid the number, seeing it everywhere and associating it with bad luck. The fear of the Antichrist has also been associated with movements like feminism and even the use of smartphones. Rock music has been a particularly big concern for those who fear the Antichrist. Some people believed that rock bands were using backmasking to hide secret messages that could only be heard when played backwards. This idea led to political involvement and the introduction of legislation in California, but none of the bills passed. While the idea of the Antichrist and its associated fears and beliefs have been around for centuries, it's important to approach them with a critical eye and a deep understanding of their historical and cultural contexts. As we have seen through the Enoch, these beliefs have been subject to interpretation and revision over time and continue to evolve in response to new technological, social movements, and geopolitical events. By examining the origins and evolution of the concept of the Antichrist, we can gain a greater appreciation for the power of myth and symbolism in shaping human consciousness and behavior. Well, that's all for today's video. Be sure to like and subscribe so you can be notified about our next videos. Trust me, you don't want to miss any of that.